Hey there, guys. Are you still on the Zoom? Amy, are you still here? Hi. Fluffy, are you still here? Hello? Fluffy's frozen. Let me see if I can get Anne Marie back. I'll be right back, Amy, and then I'll get us started. Oh, Anne Marie just messaged me. Come back. All right. Amy, can you hear me? Oh, I need to unmute you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Hi, Amy. I gotcha.
Should I shut off my Facebook then?
You can do however you want. What I did is someone told me that you guys are on Zoom. So I thought I'd just do Zoom and then I'll Facebook Live it the rest of the way. Make
Okay.
sense? So it's going to take me 1 second. Hello, Anne Marie. Thanks for telling me. Thanks for telling me about what's going on with Facebook. So I'm going to go ahead and make it live on Facebook, but that way I get to talk to you guys. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Awesome. Were you guys listening to any of the talk?
I was.
All right, great. So we'll just keep
No,
going.
because I was here.
That's so crazy. This whole thing's really crazy. I apologize. I was going to try Facebook Live, which I'm doing again right now. And I'm going to go live. And then I'm going to turn this thing down. Chill and chat. That's so funny. I can never add a title.
But you're asking the wrong person. I have no clue.
I'm going to go live anyway. Here we go. Then I got to turn this down. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Oops. How are you guys doing with hearing me? Good?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Okay, so now I'm back. Ta-da, here we are. Are we good?
Yeah, I think so.
Excellent.
Good.
All right, so I'm going to go back really quick and talk about what we were talking about. It will go very fast for so that I can get you up to speed, Anne Marie. And remember, it's a conversation form, so however you want to do it. And I just lost Fluffy. All right, here he comes. Okay, so here's the deal. We're talking about intuition and creativity, how your intuition can open up to creativity. First thing I did is I talked about creativity, which is it's not just about the arts. Creativity is any way in that you come to something that is not actually logical, right? That you get to freeform things, freestyle. I like to call it freestyling, okay? So creativity can come in numbers and finances. Creativity can come in driving. Creativity can come in service, client care. Creativity can come in many different ways. So when I look at myself as a reader, I think of myself as very creative because it's very important to find the best way to communicate with you, right? With the client. The second is so now we have agreed that creativity is anything that has a leap. Then intuition, and I know that you've heard this before, is three things. Intuition is energy-based, experience-based, and emotionally based, right? So that means if you haven't experienced it and you're not emotionally connected to it, it's going to pass right by you. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means it's not for you, okay? The other cool thing is that when you work with your intuition, you're always right, so long as you're listening to your intuition. So your intuition is always right, and it's your and that we could all do an intuitive reading, right? But because our experiences are different and our emotional attachments are different, the information can be different, and we will all still be right. That's the cool thing.
It's kind of like the little exercises we did at Yvonne's house.
Yes.
With the cards and just, you know, getting in touch with our body. We didn't know who we were reading for, but we were pretty spot on for each person.
I forgot about that class. I love that class so much. That was so great.
It
That was
was.
so great. That was Shortcut Tarot, by the way. That
Oh, cool.
it was a step towards Shortcut Tarot. But again, that's a form of creativity, right? Was how am I going to teach you guys how to do Shortcut Tarot? And so it was a logical buildup done in a creative way, right? Okay, so now that we have creativity and we talked about intuition, we're talking about how the two go together. So the thing that's really important is that we can differentiate between the two voices, right? Your intuitive voice and your critic voice. And to be honest, they can sound very similar, but they are super different. So in my head, my intuitive voice is calm. It's a little bit on the sexy side, not quite like Smoker's voice sexy, but it is because it's calm, right? It's a calming voice, where the other voice is stronger. And it's stronger because it's emotionally based, all right? And here's the funny thing, your emotions, of course, are emotionally based. Your intuition is emotionally based. It's about not being in the emotion, right? And that's pretty much what fear is. It's remembering and staying attached to an emotion that happened with an event. That's pretty much what it is, right? Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to talk about how you can open up your intuition or use your intuition to open up your creativity. And it's really as simple as just listening to your voice. Now, I know you're in service-based. Actually, you two are in service-based, and actually so is Amy. You're all service-based people, right? You're here to serve your clients. And Amy, your client is your community. That sounds fair, doesn't it? That when you do community work, let's just pretend, right? Because you like doing community work. So the way I look at it is that means your community is your client. So what's really important for all three of you, and Fluffy, you're an amazing reader. So this may not be something that's really important to you, but for just in case, all right? So because you're all service-based, I'm going to give you a couple of tips, all right? Have you ever talked to someone and all of a sudden you come up against the wall? Like no feedback, no nothing. They're like my favorite reads. They're my favorite reads because once you crack, they're all yours. They're like, oh, I love you. You're my favorite, right? So here's the thing. A lot of intuitive people, and some of them are practicing, is that when they come up against this wall, they do one of two things. What's the first thing that you do, Anne Marie?
I talk too much.
Exactly. So you try and beat it into them, right? And what's another thing that people usually do? What about you, Amy? What do you do when you come up against the wall? Like someone who's a wall, like completely resistant.
I don't have an experience like that yet.
Oh my God, that's so awesome that you have it. What about you, Fluffy? Sure.
I realize that I am trying to read the person, and so I try to open myself up to information from a different location. And
There you go. Right. So that's actually the highest form of being able to do it. So what I have found is that when people come up against the wall, they either try and pick away at the wall, or they build up their own wall. So now it's defensive versus defensive. And then the only way that you can do that, you lob a grenade, and then they lob a grenade, right? And they're hoping that something happens, but it's completely defensive. The thing is that once you encounter a wall, what you want to do is just take a moment, and in one breath, you ask your intuition, which is, how can I be of service? That is the simplest way to do it, and without having to go through all kinds of
Stress.
stress and just like figuring things out and working things out. Sometimes all you have to do is listen, which is just go start a conversation somewhere else and just let them listen, just let them chit chat. And in the chit chat, what happens is that their defense is lower. Or it could be that what you're talking about is completely not what they want to hear. Okay, which is, let's see, Anne Marie and I are moms. So if you start talking about our kids and that it's not positive, it's really easy that you're going to see defenses come up. That's just the way it is for moms, right? It's the same thing with pet owners and their their fur babies. So it's that thing. So what do is that in your intuition, and your intuition talks about, hey, this is what this person really wants. And you can do it in that one breath. And then you just have to make a commitment to go and not listen to the fear. So, Anne Marie, I know exactly what happens when you say you talk too much. I start talking faster, and then I
And
start
pitch
stuttering.
gets higher.
Yeah, and I start stuttering, and I can feel it in my body, right?
Right,
So,
right.
but the creative piece is coming at them in a different way, right? And the intuitive piece is telling you what that way is.
You know what I've been doing, if I'm going to meet with a client and I'm unsure, I will just say how, like, I'll ask my higher self or whatever, what is the best way for my soul to speak to their soul?
Perfect.
And then I just kind of leave that there, and then I go into my meeting.
That's awesome, because what you're doing is that you set an intention and then you create an action, right?
Mhm.
So it's intuition, intention, action, right? And it's an intuition. The intuition is I need to set myself up. The intention is you're throwing out a short prayer, and then the action is that you walk through the door, right?
Right.
It's the most successful way to communicate, and then to keep yourself open the whole time. So now it's like being at a party. So you have your intuition, you set your intention, you're in action, and now it's if someone comes up and they have objections, right, or you feel that resistance, then you already have your intuition open. It's nothing personal, and then you go, okay, so what's really going on? How can I help? And then you just keep moving on in that way. And in this way, you can be very fluid in your conversation. And you find that your conversation is much more efficient,
Mhm.
right? And they get to know you intimately for some reason. I think it's because of the vulnerability of your intuition.
Right, right.
Does anybody have any questions about this? No? Do you have anything specific, Amy, that we can talk about? So, to talk about intuition and opening up your creativity?
I guess, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I guess what I've dealt with all my life is just periods of stuckness in general, where like nothing is happening. I'm not taking any action, and I'm directionless and don't know where to go. Is that a creativity thing?
It can be one of two things, and I suspect it's probably a little bit of both. Sometimes you need to be in a holding pattern, right? Because you need to feel up on something in order to move yourself into action, right? So I'll give you an example. A lot of times people will be in a job that they don't like, and they just let the frustration build and build and build and build until something happens, right? And so this thing that they're not happy but they're not unhappy, that is the holding pattern. And then something busts loose, and they either know that they have to find a job, another job, go out on their own. You see what I'm saying? It's almost like you have to sit in frustration. It's the thing I got from my channeling, right? Which is that message I got. Sometimes you have to get a rash to realize you're sitting in your own crap. So that's what the period of stuckness is, the holding pattern. The other thing is that sometimes you just need to recuperate. So, and so there could be that as well. So I think there's probably a recuperation period. And then from the recuperation period, it's like, now what the hell happens? And then you sit in your recuperation period. Do you see what I'm saying? And then your recuperation period turns into your frustration period. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
how can I speed up this process
what-
because what tends to happen, so what tends to happen is like I have my periods of most productivity when I have to leave a place and move, and then I'm suddenly energized and I have to, for survival reasons, I have to make things move. And actually it's extremely stressful, but it's also kind of when I'm the happiest. And then once I get settled into a place, well, then I'm just stuck. And I'm like, I have all these shoulds. I should do this and I should do that and I should do this. And just, I can't get anything to happen.
Right.
So
You're not alone.
I mean, that's just not a very productive way to go about my life. I need this pattern to be sped up.
So let's talk about this for just a minute, because that's really interesting. And what's interesting is that the way that you're talking about it, it's not that you want to change your process, but you want to speed up your process. So really, you remind me of, and I was this person too, which is, I would never study for a test until the night before the test, and then I would cram. And it was in this cramming that that people, that all of a sudden I'm creative. Right. So all of a sudden my intuition kicks in, and then I get creative, and then I go into action. Right. The challenge with that is that it's exhausting. That's the way to say it. And it's not sustainable. Okay.
It's short term.
It's very short term. I also want you to know that you're not alone, because a lot of people, they actually use substances. I'm not saying that all people, but some people use substances in order to get themselves to that place where they're like, holy shit, I got to do something. And then they get creative again. All right. So I'll use me as an example. My substance would be sugar. Right. So I sit in sugar. And then also I'm like, holy shit, my readings are for crap. So I got to do something about it. So then what do? I get up, I do a little exercise, right? Do whatever. Then I go to that same place. So it's not like you're alone. The thing that's different is that your threshold is very, very low. Meaning, is your threshold low? Your threshold is very high. I think that's the best way to say it. So you can withstand a lot of things before you get into the action. Does that make sense? Before you kick in. So now it's more about consistency, which is a word that I know you hate. I'm not really so fond of that word either, but it's an amazing word.
I'm just really bad at it.
Well, so the thing is that you can change that.
It's even in my astrology.
That consistency is bad?
No, it's in my astrology that I'm really bad at being consistent.
Well, so the thing that's interesting about that is that just because, so let's reword what consistency is, right? So there are different ways of doing consistency. I'm one of those people that I love consistency, and that structure works for me. Now, not a whole lot of structure. So if you know me at all, I don't like anything that has too many rules. So I love soccer. Soccer may look like it has a lot of rules, but really there's only 7 that you have to abide by, right? Everything else is like whatever, right? Baseball is super technical. I like it. It's not my favorite. Football is super technical. I like it for all the other reasons, but it's, you know what I mean? I love the reason that you won't see me do astrology or tarot cards, too many rules. Right? I totally respect people who do astrology, that do tarot cards, anything like that, because it's really technical. And for me, I like fluidity. So based on that, my consistency, and I had to do this intuitively. So it comes from a very intuitive place. So my intuition tells me that I need to do chunks of time, and I need to do the chunks of time every day. Okay. So, but do I have to do it the same time every day? I'm still working that out intuitively, because my logic says yes, but intuitively I'm saying no, as long as I get this stuff done. Right? Does that make sense? So for you, it's time to start working with yourself intuitively, which is what is it that's going to move you through? So you know that you have to eat, right? Do you cook?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
yes.
there's your consistency, right? So now all you have to do is just float anything's around around your consistent things. So you have to eat, you have to poop, you have to eliminate. I think there are 5 things, right? You need sun, you need breath, you need what else do I need? Sun, breath, I need to eliminate. I know these. You need to eat,
Feed.
drink, right? You need to eat, drink, sleep. You need to breathe. And
Exercise?
you need to eliminate, right? So that's all, those are the 5 things. So since these are your consistencies, just build other things around your consistencies.
So I'm really good at taking care of my health, and that's the reactions if I don't. But things like applying for jobs, networking, socializing, I can go years without doing those things. And
Yeah, so COVID is working for you,
no
right? COVID is
inspiration to
working
do
for a
it.
lot of people. Well, so the thing is you don't have to, but you have to find a way to find I'll call it a vocation, right? To find a vocation that works for you. So what my goal is to have your intuition work for you so you can have a vocation that works for you. Make sense? So there are plenty of projects or jobs that you can do, right? And the thing is that there's a part of you that's afraid to explore. You love, it's funny, you don't like being around crowds, but you love community work. It's crazy. It's crazy. You love being a service, but you don't like being around people. I get it. Because, right, you're super sensitive. And you've had your feelings hurt a lot. So you're also tentative, right? So what you want to do is you got to separate your hurt feelings in your past, because remember I told you it's a memory. It's what hurt feelings are is that you had an experience and the experience is done, but the emotion still goes with you. So what's time to do is detach the emotion so that you can say, okay, that was then, and now we're going to shoot for a different experience. Make sense?
So how do I do that?
So we're going to talk about your intuition. Your intuition will tell you where to go. So your intuition tells you that you need quiet, right? Your intuition tells you that you need to do your 5 things in order to survive. And your intuition knows that you got to communicate with other people in order to do these things. So the next piece is how are you going to make these connections? And your intuition will tell you that too. And I can almost guarantee you that your fallback critic voice is, it's not good for my health. I'm afraid for my health, right? So you just need to listen to your intuition first. Does that make sense? All right. Does anybody have any other kinds of questions? Otherwise, I'll go back to you, Amy, but I want to make sure that I help all three of you. Go ahead, Fluffy.
A friend of mine recently came forward with an offer. You met him in Katya's intuition thing on Tuesday nights. He's the guy with the eye patch. He is going to be moving out of his house and into his own place, and he wants to hire me through the government to be his caretaker. I like that idea. Intuitively, what do you get out of that?
I want to work it the other way because you're an intuit. So intuitively, what are you getting out of it? First, I love doing this. So first, I'm going to write my answer, and then we'll work it through, and we'll see if our answers match. Okay?
I get the person is very independent, and he just needs to make sure that a couple things on a regular basis are the way they're supposed to, so he could have consistency. And he will probably make it so that I won't have to pay much in rent, and I'll be getting money from the job itself. And it's going to mostly be morning and evening things, so I'll have time during the day to have a normal job. And I'll have the space to do my own spiritual practice. And I think it will be a good catalyst for me to get the other things in my life together.
So you just explained all these things.
Yeah, but it's
So what's your
possible.
intuition tell you?
I'm gonna get what I want, and there's a lot of fear behind that.
See, okay, so this is great because Amy, do you hear what he's saying? His intuition is saying go forward, but all his fear is, and his fear is huge, because he's saying I'm going to get everything I want. That shit is scary. I don't know why, but it has to do, but it's scary, right, Fluffy? I
Oh, yeah.
understand where you're coming from. All right. So, so what are you going to do based on your intuition? Because remember, it's intuition, intention, action.
Well, if he actually goes through with this, because he's just as scared as I am,
Mm-hmm.
if it goes forward, I'm probably going to do it. And the fear is I'm going to be missing other opportunities if I go with this, because it's the fear of the unknown and what won't happen. But I keep on getting the message that the universe I've gotten to a point in my life and where the universe really doesn't have a plan for me.
What does
It
that
just,
mean?
it means that I'm going to manifest what I want. I just have to back it up with action, proper action.
All right, so let's back this up because what I'd like to do is I'd like to keep separating,
Yeah.
so you can see where the bullshit is. And I say that with absolute respect, all right? Because I bullshit myself on the daily.
Oh,
Which is
as
why
do
I
I.
do this, right? Right. So the reason I do this is the more I talk about it, the more I catch myself. So here's where you are. You're saying, these are my favorite things. And this is an intuitive thing that I do as well, where every time you say a word, and if it hits my body a certain way, which is an intuitive response, I write it down because I know that's a bullshit. And just so you know, I teach a class on this. It's way fun. And it's going to actually come in my child's play class. But anyway, so here you are, you're saying, I'm going to get everything I want, but I'm afraid. So now we're going to separate. So Amy, if you turn off your video, it should help with your audio. And then if you have your internet, if you have your phone on internet, you want to put that on airplane mode and it'll strengthen your connection and we'll still be able to hear you. All right. Okay. So here you are and you say, I'm afraid I'm going to get everything I want. And then your voice says, I'm afraid of that. And then your voice says, I'm afraid of the missed opportunities. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen is now you're no longer in alignment because now you're two separate people. Make
Right.
sense? All right. So I'm going to bring this back. Okay. It's kind of like, do you date, Fluffy, or are you in a relationship?
No, I haven't been that lucky.
All right. So here's what I'm going to tell you. When you're in a relationship, when you're in a relationship, it's like this. And then one of you says, I want to know everything about you. And then they say, I want to know everything about you. And now there's this. So now there's no differentiation of energy, which is horrible. And then you guys have hurt feelings. So now from here, you go like this, right? So there's no alignment and now there's a buffer. And then you have more miscommunication and then you're like this. Do you see what I'm saying? And then something else happens and then you're like this. And so your energy is not going in a forward motion, right? And you're only focusing at each other. I'm doing intuition with hand movements like puppets. So, all right, so here you are. So now what we need to do is we have to do a couple things, right? The first thing that we need to do is get in alignment, okay? And then once we get in alignment, we have to decide whether or not we can keep in communication in order to go back like this. So I like using relationships because everybody's been in one, so everybody can experience this, right? So here you are, you're like this. Intuitively, you're afraid it's gonna go like this. And when it goes like this, you're gonna miss out. And when you go like this, then you know that the next thing that happens is this, and then maybe this, right? Or maybe, right? So what's really important is before you make this decision is to listen to your intuition. So here you are, you're solid with your intuition. This is your fear voice, this is your intuitive voice, right? And your intuition says, I can get everything I want. And your fear voice says, I'm really afraid that I'm going to get entangled or something was going to happen, right? So what's going to happen is that your intuition is going to say, let's get to the bottom of what these fears are. And let's just ask for what we want. So what you're going to want is you're going to want clear boundaries, very clear boundaries, which is what the other person wants as well. So what's the creative answer to that?
Write it down.
Exactly. Write it down, right? That's your intuition, intention, and action. Your intuition says this can work. Your intention says, I need to make sure that this happens in order to work. And then you got to write it down. Okay. And then the second thing is that you're afraid you're going to be stuck in this thing forever. You kind of have commitment issues. You're not alone. So then you also want to write down. So you're afraid it's going to be forever. And your intuition is telling you what? Does your intuition tell you this is going to be forever?
No.
Exactly. So now what you want to do is go, okay, what feels comfortable for me, intuition? And your intuition will say?
A year.
A year. I was actually hearing a couple of years, but that works. And so then you go and tell this person, hey, this is a trial basis for 1 year.
Yeah, I actually said a year, bare minimum, probably 2 or 3 years, because whenever I go somewhere, I want to dig in and get my head on straight to figure out the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I spend the next couple of years actually planning for that and move forward. And my friend already knows this, and we've actually done this whole thing where we get in each other's faces and it's horrible.
Yep. And that's your fear, right? Based on your past.
Yeah, and that's already happened, so we know what each other's like at the worst. And that doesn't scare either of us because we know we will talk it through.
Great. So, but your intuition says, write it down.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So write it down, and then be logical about it, and both of you date and sign it, and make sure that there's 2 copies. Okay. So
Okay.
So that's the practical use of intuition, but that's your intuition being creative, opening you up creatively. Because here's what's going to happen. Once you have this thing, you're also one of these people that are having a little bit of a challenge with consistency, right?
Oh yeah.
So what's going to happen is that this situation is going to allow you consistency. And with this comfort of consistency, knowing that you have a written agreement that you have to abide by, because you're the one, well, you both are, but you have huge boundary issues because you like to get in the mix, you want to be helpful, then what happens is then your intuition allows creativity to happen that's beyond survival mode. And that's awesome, right? And that's where Amy is too, right? So you want to get to a place where you get to use your intuition beyond survival mode. The thing is that you don't tap into your intuition until you're in survival mode. That's the only difference. So the thing is to start really paying attention to your intuition on a daily basis, or at least a couple times a week, so you can check in with yourself, right? I have to admit that my intuition depends on my energy level. So if I don't take care of myself and I'm wiped out tired, I'm too cranky to listen to my intuitive voice. I'd much rather listen to my cranky voice, right? So yeah, go ahead.
Just a question, and this is probably very rudimentary because you probably have already answered this at some place, but when you talk about listening to your intuition, it could come at any time. It's not like we have to sit and meditate specifically to hear the intuition. It's just about being quiet and still enough to pay attention to it.
That is absolutely correct. And to trust your intuitive voice enough to know that you can access it at any time. So what I like to do is I love meditation because meditation just puts me back in touch with my intuitive voice, right? So, yeah. Right. So so it's me making a commitment to myself that I'm going to listen to my intuitive voice.
I don't get a lot of, if I'm around a lot more higher vibration people, my intuition becomes higher.
Yeah.
And then I'll get more of the little voice. But for the most part, it's feelings for me. It's all about the energy in my body. It's just, I'm not sure sometimes how to identify what it's telling me.
Okay, so
So
that's an amazing thing to know. Okay, so again, it goes back to intuition. I mean, not intuition, to meditation, and it doesn't have to be long. You just want to sit and do a body check. You just want to get really clear, because what happens to me is that if I'm in my own shit, I have a sore throat, right? And then I have plugged up ears because this is where I operate from. I operate from my fifth chakra. Okay, so so I want to be aware of if anything else that's going on, if it's my body or if I'm picking up someone else's stuff. So if you do just a daily check-in, you could do it in the shower, right? It doesn't have to be a big deal. You just check in and go, okay, so here are the things that are going on with me physically. Then you just take that knowledge out in the world, and then you know as soon as possible what you're picking up on.
well, I was talking to a friend one day, and she was telling me some stuff on the phone, and I literally all of a sudden could not talk. Like I was like, you know, so
That's an intuitive thing.
that is a very intuitive. Yeah.
Intuitive. It's saying two things. One is that person is having a real hard time communicating with whatever it needed to be communicated, like a huge challenge. And two, it was a she, right? So she was locked into your, and you were locked in with your communication, right? So there's a part of you that couldn't communicate back what you really wanted to communicate back. So what happened is like they had these funky feelings that tapped into your funky feelings about their situation, and then you're the one that starts choking, right?
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like to think of it as my get out of jail free card, because then I always go, I gotta go, hang up, and it automatically goes away. Or you may have to cough a couple times and it goes away. But here's what happens. That person gets to stay in their frustration. What they're doing intuitively is because you're open as they're doing this, unless you're in alignment, you're doing this too, right? And what this person wants you to do is this person is hoping that you're going to get her to do this.
So, but how is that then different than me just intuitively picking up that there was something bigger going on? Because that to me is more like there's something else instead of just, you see what I'm saying? Because I feel the different stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously that was
Yeah, no, that's a really good. So now the question is what are you going to do with your intuition?
got it. Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
Well, and that's where the creativity comes in, because there are three things that you can do. One is that you run, two is that you tough it out, and three is that you kind of push through it, right? So you have three things that you can do. And if you listen to your intuition, you'll know the one that's most beneficial for both of you, right? So I'll give you an example. Yesterday I did a fifth dimension gig, and I didn't notify enough people because I forgot to tell people that I'm no longer doing one of the fifth dimension things, so they should all go to this other place, right? So I was told only one person was showing up, and it was, it was going to be on Zoom, and it looked like that this person had never seen the fifth dimension before. And so I went to my fear place, which is, how am I going to moderate? Because it's a Zoom thing. How am I going to moderate and do fifth dimension at the same time, right? That's one thing. And the second is, if I can't, you can see where I go. If I can't, this person's not going to be satisfied, because with one person, fifth dimension probably only going to last 10 minutes. So then what am I going to do? Am I going to get a bad review? Is this going to make me lose, that person as a client, as well as getting bad reviews, blah, blah, blah. So I went down that rabbit hole. Exactly. Right. And the person who told me that I was going to moderate felt really bad. So now so I chunked up, and she was just telling me something. And then all of a sudden she closed up, and she's trying to talk to me going, I really feel bad. All she wants to do is for me to open up again. Right. And she says, I'll support you. I'll do all these things. But she's not coming from her intuition. She's coming from her fear of me being mad at her. Right. So now what happens? One of us has to do something. So then what I said was, no, I'm just having hard feelings. I just want to go ahead and I need to have this experience. Otherwise it wouldn't have been presented to me. Okay. So now I opened up, and so then she got to open up. Got it? Okay. So guess what happened? One other person came to the thing. And so the person who came was new. And then the second person actually had seen it before. So I was really well taken care of. Do you see what I'm saying? The clients were happy. All my fears were just a bunch of poop, right? And so the creative thing for me to do, so here I am, my intuition says I'm going to be fine. So my creativity had to talk about all the things that I could do in order to make it okay, right? And it's not about making it okay for me, but just making it okay.
So how do I then get more clear on what it is that's going on when I'm feeling something, you know, in my body? You know, like goosies, I get goosies in certain places sometimes, and then I get them all over sometimes. And then sometimes it's so much that the hair in the back of my neck, or it feels like butterflies, you know, like excitement. Like, how do I start honing in then on those to figure out what's what?
What do you think your answer is? What does your intuition tell
Checking
you?
in with my body every day, and then just going with the intuition of what it's feeling like. If it's a good, happy, then it's a good, happy, right? Is that?
Yeah. And then get creative. So here's the creativity: is use your body like a dictionary, right? So use your body like a dictionary. So I love doing this. Oh, you see me do this in a reading. I feel you in my feet. So to me, that means we need to talk about grounding for you. I feel you in here. So then start using your body like a dictionary. That's creative, because then now what you're doing is that you're giving your intuition a language, and then
like my dreams, just like my dreams.
Just like your dreams, like everything else. It's all, you know, it's all very symbolic. And then once you get to use your body as a symbol, it's a direct connect of how you can be of service to that person.
All right, cool.
Right?
All right.
Okay, so we'll talk about one. Anybody have any questions about this?
I'm just going to plug my computer in. You're not going to see me, but I'm going to still hear you.
Yeah, that's fine. Fluffy, Amy, do you have any questions about this? No? All right. So I'm going to talk about one last thing, which is a lot of times your intuition will tell you to shut up. And just to let you know that shutting up is not shutting out, and it's not shutting down. It just means be still for a moment. If you have to listen, listen. It's actually a form of openness, if that makes sense. And so I highly recommend that if you were to listen to your intuition about one thing, is about when to stop. Does that make sense? Because as human beings, it's really easy to keep, well, I won't say as human beings, because I have a feeling that other cultures know when to stop. But so I'll just say as Americans, we always are we're going to push through. We're going to, right? We're going to force it. We're going to let your intuition, if it says stop or slow down, do that. Because what it is doing is it's helping you redirect your energy into its most efficient form. All right. Do you have any questions about that? Being quiet or shutting up gives your intuition time to redirect the energy.
Does that also include not doing anything, where you just simply be more present, stop trying to do as much, and just simply be? If
your intuition is telling you to not do anything, which really it does happen, and you'll know what it is because people go, that's it, I'm saturated, I'm done. So what's happening is that your intuition's been telling you, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, and then your emotions finally went, stop. And you're like, holy shit, I gotta stop. So when your intuition is telling you, stop, and you go through all the things, am I tired? No. Am I sleepy? You know, am I hungry? Am I this? Am I that? Am I sad? Do you see what I'm saying? And you know it's not your emotions, then you listen to your intuition and you take that time off. So it can be Just you do absolutely nothing. You can actually watch the paint dry, right? Watch the grass grow. It's a form of meditation. So, and then your intuition will also tell you when it's time to get up off your ass and do something.
Because that's where I'm actually at, trying to decide what I need to be doing and when. And I have a lot of blockages in trying to do certain things. And no matter how hard I try, the more I try to do it, the more I seem to want to actually stop and not do anything. And I'm being told to sit and wait.
The answer is yes. So so that doesn't mean that you have to do nothing. So sitting and waiting is actually kind of doing something, but the sense that I'm getting from you is that the things that you're pushing on are the things that need to wait, and the things that you're ignoring are the things that it's time to attack. Right? So I wouldn't be surprised if it's time for you to declutter. I wouldn't be surprised if it's time for you to start journaling. I wouldn't be surprised if it's time for you to start cataloging what it is that you do. I wouldn't be surprised if it's time for you to start telling people what you do without telling people what you do. All right. So this Zoom thing, right? You all know that I'm doing readings, but I'm doing readings without talking about that I'm doing readings. What I'm doing is I'm providing a service, right? Without saying this is what I do. So
Okay.
the things that I know, I said it so mean, didn't I? That's
No.
So mean. So yeah, so those are the things, is that you want to think about, okay, so what you want to do is you kind of want to sit and go, okay, intuitively, if this is where I need to be still. Remember I said when you need to shut up, that means that your intuition is it's giving you an opportunity to redirect your energy.
Mm-hmm.
So then the question is, where am I going to redirect my energy? And then your creativity comes in again. Got it? Does anybody have any last questions? Because it's 12 o'clock. Anybody? All right. So listen, the things that we're talking about, you can see in so many other ways. I'm doing open up your intuition through child's play. So that we're talking about how you can use your intuition, and we do it in a very fun way, which is using kids games. I'm also doing a spiritual boot camp. So we're talking about consistency, as well as different ways that you can go ahead and do your intuition. And what else am I doing? I'm doing a bunch of stuff, but those are the two things that are a lot of fun that apply to this place if you want to take a look at.
So spiritual boot camp is kind of going to be more deep diving into what we've been talking about here.
It's actually more about practicing than it is about doing. So the fun part is that in your spiritual boot camp, you're going to have three instructors, 2 instructors at a time. So it's going to be different every day. And we do it 3 days a week for 3 weeks. So you're going to have martial arts. So it's about the internal energy and the movement. Then you're going to have Reiki and Eden energy medicine, which you're going to have some about that. And I hope we're going to have another interview with Bridget Salmagi about Reiki and the Eden energy medicine, how she smushes everything together for her own unique blend of magic.
And that's 3 days a week, you said, at 6 a.m.?
6 a.m. to 7 a.m. It's for people who are working. Yeah, but a lot of people are working these days, right? And it's a good way to set up your day. Okay,
I will touch base with you after all this about that. So,
yeah,
but I'm gonna go.
Go.
So thank you. Bye, everybody.
See you later. See you later. And then and I forgot, the one last thing is that there's I'm going to be doing something with Katya sometime soon, and I will let you know when the date happens. But it's a nice blend of intuition, information, and compassion. So we got all that stuff going on. Okay. Any questions? No? All right. You both have homework.
I have a completely unrelated question.
Yeah, go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, totally.
I have a completely unrelated question.
Yep.
Are you okay with that?
Yep. Let's hear it.
Okay. So I had this incident at a plasma center because I was, selling plasma for money.
Yep.
And this woman was like picking fights with me, and then she ended up doing a malpractice thing, and I ended up going to the hospital. But the whole time it was so illogical, and it felt like I was in a dream.
Yes.
And when I passed out, it felt like I was going through some sort of portal.
Yep.
So like, was this just like an earthly conflict that happened, or was this like a bigger picture? Did the universe create this situation for me?
Opportunity. Yeah, you are in a waking dream. Okay, so it was a form of, I'll call it, like, it was like lucid dreaming, the other side of lucid dreaming, right? Where you're so awake and it's so bizarre that it has to be a dream, right? So yes, it was real, and yes, it was a waking dream. So what's happening is that there's a part of you that's giving away your energy, and someone is telling you that's not the way. You know, believe it or not, it's an angel or a guardian angel or guide is saying this is not the way to do it, and you're arguing it, and so you're losing energy, and then you pass out. So the energy is not flowing efficiently. All right, we can go more into it, but that's pretty much the overview. So
I don't understand, like, what's the way that I'm not going about it correctly?
I wouldn't use those words. It's more like it's time that you're giving away your energy. You're not giving away. You're giving away your energy in a way that doesn't serve you anymore. But you're fighting it. You're arguing. You're arguing that. And so what's happening is that in this waking dream, it's saying, hey, it's time for you to shift how you give your energy, or where you focus your energy, right? Because blood is all about life force energy. We can do this more. I don't have time to do that, but that's the simple overview. It's your life saying it's time to change up on how you give and your expectations of how to receive based on your giving. Make sense? I know it's a little bit general, but that's we can talk
Not
about that.
yet, but I don't want to take up too much of your time, so.
Yeah, so that is something that you want to actually get a bigger reading on, and we wouldn't have had time even if you started in the beginning to go over what that means. Does that make sense when I say that?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I would say let's not table it, but let's take it offline. Sound fair?
Okay.
All right, I will talk to you all later. Thank you so much for joining me. And I will catch you on another. And Chill and Chats, I think I'm going to just keep doing it on Zoom, and then stream it through Facebook. So thank you so much for your patience on doing this. All right. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank
See you
you.
later. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.